Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be of my experience at MEPs, which was just 2 days ago. So if you guys want to know and get some information, then just keep on watching. Okay, so my experience at MEPs started off on Monday, July 15th. And if you watched my previous video when I told you guys that I will be joining the military, I mentioned that I would be going to MEPs on Monday. So I had to meet with my recruiter the previous Friday, which was July 12th. He wanted to go over some information, give me some documents, and just pretty much give me like a little prep for MEPs. Also, he wanted to provide me with where I needed to go for hotel-wise and what time I needed to check in. So after that, I had to check into the hotel on Sunday, July 14th. I had to check in at 8 o'clock. However, my recruiter suggested to be there by 7 or 7:30 just so that I can check in early, which I did. I checked in at 7:30 and I actually had to drive to my mom's house, and then I had my sister drive me to the hotel to check in. So when I checked in, I had to provide them my ID, and then I had to sign off on my name, and they gave me my room key, and then they also gave me a dinner voucher, which is like a little piece of paper that just says that I can get food. Then after that, the lady told me that I had to be back down in that room at 8:30 for a meeting. And then after that, pretty much we had a curfew, which was at 10 o'clock. We could not leave the room or the hotel. So I went upstairs to my room, which was pretty nice. They had 2 beds and I knew I had a roommate. And then I pretty much just relaxed for like the next hour or so. When it was close to, I think my roommate got there around 8-ish o'clock, and she introduced herself. She was really nice, but she went downstairs to meet with somebody that she had already met. So I just stayed in the room, and when it was closer to 8:30, that's when I made my way downstairs. I went into that room where I checked in, and there was a bunch of people there. I think in total it was 75 of us. About 50 of them were getting shipped out the next day, and then the other like 25 of us were getting processed. It was so many of us. Most of them were guys. I believe it was about 10 girls, which 4 of them were leaving for basic the next day, and the rest of us were trying to get enlisted. So that tells you kind of like the percentage of females versus males. So I went downstairs for that meeting, and we pretty much got told about the curfew, to get dinner, that the next day we needed to be up by 4:30. We needed to check out of the hotel by 5, but we needed to check out with our roommate, so our roommate had to be with us. And then that breakfast was from 5 to 5:30. After breakfast, we needed to line up because we needed to go on the bus to head out to MEPs. So the next day, we woke up at we woke up around like 4:20ish, and then we got ready. We were downstairs by like, I want to say 4:45. We checked out. We had to do a quick survey, and then we went to get breakfast at 5. Most of the girls sat in the same table, and then the guys were kind of scattered around, but it was pretty much a buffet style breakfast where you they have eggs, bacon, potatoes, juice, coffee, water, toast, and I think that was it. I mean, the breakfast was pretty simple, but I mean, it was breakfast, and at that time you're not really that hungry, you're more nervous than anything. And then for dinner, which I forgot to mention, we get to eat at the restaurant at the hotel, but we had a smaller menu. The menu choices for us were chicken tenders, I think, fettuccine alfredo pasta. We had a burger or a salad option. So it was only 4 options, and then we could only get for dessert ice cream if we wanted some, and that was it. So we had breakfast. We were done by 5:30. And then at 5:30 they did a roll call, and then they made us get into 3 separate lines. 2 of the lines were people who were going to ride on separate vans, and then the rest of us were riding in the charter bus. So we got to MEPS around 6:05, I want to say, and then we got off the bus. We had to get our backpacks from under the bus, and then we had to line up in 3 lines again. Once we were lined up in 3 lines, we had to go into MEPS through the back of the building, because that's where they do like the airport security. We had to take our shoes off, any sort of metal, take our phones out, any belts or anything like that. And then after that, we had to go up to the 2nd level, which is where they do the MEPS processing here in Denver. Once we got upstairs, we had to wait in line to check in the main control desk. This is where they give us our documents that we're gonna need for the rest of the day. And they also told us that before we get upstairs, that we had to stop at the at this room where you have to put your bags and your luggage or whatever you have, and the only things you're allowed to have with you was your photo ID and your social security, and if you had glasses, you need to have your glasses with you. Other than that, everything has to stay in that room, and you cannot get any other stuff until later on when they tell you if they need you to go get something, because your recruiter sends you off with some documentation, but you're not able to pull it out till later in the day. So we make a line in that main control desk. They give you a packet which is full of paperwork, and then they tell you to go to the medical section where you're going to get all your medical testing done. For the MEPS here in Denver, is 1/2 is all of the office rooms for all the branches, and then the ASVAB testing, and then the other half of that floor is all the medical stuff, and then the contracting and swearing room. So we checked in, we got our paperwork, we went down to the medical control desk. We had to check in there as well because they have to give you additional forms, and then once you check in there, they make you walk down to where you do the first station, which is checking your ears. But it's not your hearing test. This is where they just check your inside your ear, and then they make sure that you can pop your ears. And my first interaction with the doctor was pretty friendly. He asked me how I was doing, and I asked him the same question back, and he was very happy and bubbly, and he was in a good mood to get us rolling, you know. So after that, he checks everything, he signs it off, and then he tells you to go elsewhere. My next station was the vision test. However, when I was doing my vision exam, I only got halfway done, because we were all told that we needed to go into the briefing room to do the medical briefing and then the MEPS briefing. So there we waited a couple minutes, made sure that everybody was in there. I was one of the last people to go in there, because I was doing a test when they told everybody to go into that room. So when I arrived, you know, we waited for a couple more people, then we sat down, and then I think he was a commander or a chief, I'm not sure, I don't know my ranks, but he was wearing the uniform that's all like beige, and he pretty much just gave us the MEPS briefing, which says and I actually wrote some stuff down, but let me get my phone, hold on, because I wrote down some stuff so that I could remember. So there he told us about not to lie, that if you lie and they find out, that you can get fined and you can serve jail time. There they tell you about any sort of discrimination, that discrimination is not allowed, and if something does happen, that you need to report it. They also talk about inappropriate behavior, so if you feel like you're getting sexually assaulted or anything that has to do with any sexual conduct, that you should also report it, because they take those things very, very serious. And then he noticed that we were kind of like not fully awake, so he started picking people and making them read the slides. Thankfully I wasn't picked, because I feel like if I would have been picked, I would have gotten really, really nervous and probably started stuttering. But he made people read so that we could all get awake, and then all of a sudden he's just like, okay, I can start reading now, I see that you guys are all paying attention and you guys are awake now. So then he continued on reading. After he was done, another lady came in, which was the lady that was checking us in for the medical examinations, and she gave us a medical briefing. She also talked about making sure that we were saying the truth about our medical conditions, not only because if you lie you can get fined, you can end up having to do jail time, but also because if we do have a condition that needs medical attention and we lie about it just to get in, you know, we can have really bad consequences. We can even lose our lives because we can die, you know, at BMT or on the job because we have a medical condition, and you know, we're not doing any justice to us and we're not doing any justice to them. So she spoke about that. Then she also pretty much showed us how to fill out the medical documentation that we were going to need for the rest of the day. So if you pay attention, if you listen, and if you just follow what they're saying, you're going to be just fine, because they tell you how to do things and what you need to do and what you need to have. So just pay attention and you'll be good to go. So after we did the medical briefing, they had us do the what is it called, the breathalyzer test to check for any alcohol. So we all got in line, and then they did the breathalyzer test. Everybody passed. Nobody got disqualified for that. And after you were done with that, you had to go back to the station where you left off. So I left off in Vision, so I went back to the Vision station. However, nobody was in the Vision station, so I had to do the medical interview first. And that's when the female doctor pulled me aside and she took me into this room. She got my medical documentation, she did some stamps, she did some signing, and then she started asking me about my surgery and everything that I had written down in that medical paper, which I wrote down my medical surgery. I wrote down that I had gotten a ticket and other stuff on there. So she was just double checking that everything was correct, and then she gave me my medical documentation and she told me that I was good to go. After that, I went back to the line, and then that's when I did the urine test next. So the urine test, it was 4 of us girls who went into the restroom, and then 2 girls went first. However, they couldn't pee, but the lady that was doing this part of the exam, she pretty much just told us to pee in the cup, that she needed at least half of the cup filled, not to flush the toilet, and to pull her pants down to her knees. And then while these girls were peeing, like, I was looking at her, and she wasn't looking at them, she was just kind of like facing them, but like kind of like looking away, just making sure that, you know, she was looking but not looking at the same time. And then so the 2 girls that went in front of me, they couldn't pee, so they had to dump the pee and then wash their hands, and then they had to go outside and continue to drink water so they can retake the exam. However, I had been holding my pee at least for 3 hours by now, so I was ready to go. I was just like, give me the cup, I am ready to do this. So she gave me the cup, and I pretty much filled up the cup, and then I pulled up my pants, I walked over with my little cup, and I put it in this window where this guy opened the doors of the little window. And then he did a pregnancy test, he did another strip test, and then the pee that was in the cup, he poured it into this little container where he put out one of the stickers that I had in the folder that is a barcode and your social security number, and then he taped like a red seal on top of that little bottle, and then he made me sign off. So that was me signing off that I was done with the urine test. After that, I was asked to take the pee that was remaining in that cup and flush it down the toilet, wash my hands, and then I was good to go. After that, I did the sorry if you guys hear noises, but I'm in the basement, so you can hear everything upstairs. So after the urine test, I did the hearing exam, and for the hearing exam, it was 4 of us in the soundproof room. And then in the soundproof room, there's like 7 little stools where you can sit, but you're facing the wall, and then there's curtains. However, we weren't told to pull the curtains, so everybody had their curtain pushed towards the wall. And then the lady pretty much closed the door, and then over the sound, she said, put on the headphones, grab the clicker, and the examination's about to start. And then they tested out my left ear first and then my right ear. But the problem with that was that I had the air conditioning vent right on top of my head, so I can hear the vent. I could hear the air coming out, and I feel like that gave me a lower hearing score because I could hardly hear what the sounds were in my ear. So therefore I was literally just clicking. But I think the point of that is to click as soon as you hear the sound, and for me it kind of took a little bit because I was concentrated, one, in the noise, and then second, the noise was overwhelming the sound in my ears. So I think that lasted for maybe like, I want to say 5 minutes max. And then she came in, she opened the door, and then she handed each and one of us our folders, and then she said, "You guys passed." After that, that's when she pulled me aside and she went and took me in to finish doing the vision test. For the vision test, you need to be able to do the perception, where they show you like A, B, C, D, E, F, and then all of those letters have circles, but one of those circles stands out, and I believe it's like a row of 5 circles, but one of those will stand out and you have to tell him which one stands out. I fortunately passed it, so I was good to go. The color test, to see if you're colorblind, you have to be able to read the numbers that they show you. And then after that, you have to do the regular test where you have to read off the letters from the line of the one you can see the clearest. And then they put you on this other machine where this one calculates, I think it gives them the numbers of your vision, because you can see a little house and it gets blurry, and then it gets really stable and really clear. And then they print off like a little receipt with numbers on it. I know for sure that I need glasses because I wear glasses, so I wasn't even trying to get a perfect score on that. I know I do have 20/20 vision seeing close, but definitely not good vision seeing far away. So after I was done with that, I had to get my blood pressure test done, and that one's very easy. You just sit down on a chair, they tell you to relax, and then they put the band around you and it starts inflating. And I think my blood pressure was fine because he didn't mention anything. He just signed off, and then he told me to go get my blood work done. For the blood work, they only took one little tube of blood, and the guy was really nice. He was making conversation with me, and he was asking me what branch I was joining, and you know what career field I wanted to do within that branch. And he was just making conversation. Then he asked me which arm like I usually get my blood drawn, and which for me is usually my right arm, so that's what he used. After that, I had to do the physical examination, but before that I had to wait like, I want to say maybe 30 minutes, because they had to get all the girls together, at least a group of 4 girls, to do this examination so they could do it all at once. But for this particular examination, you go in with the doctor and then another female, and they ask you to take your clothes off, but you have to leave your bra and your underwear on. And then they make you stand up in a row all together. You have to extend your arms and make sure that your fingers are not touching the other person. And then they start doing some maneuvers with you. So the first thing is they check your hands to make sure you don't have any warts, and then they check the bottom of your feet. So they make you like hold up your leg, and then the doctor walks behind you and she looks at your feet. So you do your right and then your left, and then the lady that is showing you the maneuver, she the other thing she made us do was to lift our arms and then roll them back, and then just kind of do this, but like fast. After that, you have to do the one where you put your arms up and then you have to like swing them down, and your arms have to drop down, but they cannot touch your legs. They have to be at least an inch away from your legs. Then you have to do one where you touch with your thumbs, and then you have to flick your arms out. The next little test they made us do was the scoliosis one. So you have to touch your toes, and then they check your back. These are really fast. Like they're showing you, they point at whoever the person, and the person has to do it. After the scoliosis and after Those, they make you squat. After the squat comes the duck walk, and the duck walk is really easy. Literally, you're squatting down, and what you have to do is the heel of your foot has to go first on the floor and then your toes. So every time you're doing this, and then you have to do it for a certain distance, and then you have to be able to turn around in that same position and then walk back. After you're done with the duck walk, they make you be like crunched down on your toes, and then you have to drop your knees on the floor, but you only have to drop them when she points at you. And what I did was that she told us what to do, and I literally was like crunched like this, and I just dropped my knees, and she hadn't even pointed at me. And then when she pointed at me, I was on the floor, and she was like, what did you do? And I was like, I already dropped. She's like, okay, do it again. So I went up again, and then I dropped my knees. It kind of hurts a little bit. It's fast. After you do that one, they make you walk on your knees, and that one hurts because it's floor, like hard floor. But you walk the same distance you did for the duck walk, and then you walk it back. And then after that, they told us to get fully naked, and they gave us this like paper cover up that we had to put on, and it had like a hole for your arms, but the back had to be open. And then that's when they took you into the examination room by yourself, and you had to lay on the console table. I don't know what they call it, but on the table, on the checkup table. So you have to sit first because they have to check your lungs, and then after that she asks you to lay down. And then what the doctor did to me was that she lifted half first, and she kind of peeked, but then she just moved her hand all over my breast just to see if I had any lumps. And then she moved her hand down to my pelvic area, and she pressed down, and she asked me if it hurt. And then once she was done with that side, she moved to the other side, and she did the same thing. And then when it was time to check down in your private area, she pretty much told me to lift my legs up into a V position, and then she pretty much just lifted the paper cover up, and she just peeked and then put it back down. It was literally a second. I honestly thought they were gonna do like a full-on pap smear, but they do not do that. They literally just peek and put it back down. After that, she signed up some paperwork. She told me I was fine, I was great, and to go get dressed. After I got dressed, that was the end of the physical or the medical exams. So after that, I had to give my paperwork over to the medical control desk lady, and I had to pretty much sit and wait. After that, I was just waiting for them to enter all the information into the computer for me to move on to my next phase. So at this point, there was about 10 of us that were done at the same time, and there was one guy at that control desk because the lady that I had given the paperwork to, she had left on lunch. So this guy was, I think this was the only like bad experience I had at MEPs, because this guy was cussing and talking with like a low breath, but he was not happy. And I could kind of understand why. Is because he had the stack of papers of all of us that were waiting for him, of medical documents he had to enter, and nobody was there to help him. And then the doctors kept coming out asking him questions, and then people walking by kept asking him questions, and he was just kind of frustrated at that point because he was just like, I can't do all of this at once. And then at some point the printer ran out of paper, and he like dropped the thing of paper, and he had to like go on his knees and pick it up. And this guy was older, and he was also a little bit heavier, so he could hardly like reach over and get all that paper from the floor. So I think that was the only bad experience. There was this one kid who, I guess he was given the entire medical documents, and he was already on his way to see the Air Force office. So he was sent back to give those documents back to him, and the guy was kind of rude and told him to sit down, but the kid had attitude, and he was like giving the guy attitude back. But this guy was not caring, and I honestly thought that kid was gonna get disqualified. And I say kid because he was 17 years old, guys. He was 17, he was already signing up, but he was giving attitude, and I was like, oh my god, I feel like they're gonna be like, get out of here, like leave, you do not belong here, because he was just being kind of rude and obnoxious. But thankfully he didn't get disqualified. They took his medical records from him and they sent him off. And then after that, they called me up. They pretty much give you a copy of all those medical documents that were just filled out, and they give them to you so that you can take them to your branch that you're joining. In my case, I'm joining the Air Force, so they gave me those documents to take to the Air Force. So I walked over to the Air Force area, and I waited in the chairs till somebody called me. So then this Air Force guy called me up, and then he saw my medical records, and then he took me over to where you have to lift this bar that you have to lift, and I had to pull it and pull it up. And my first try, I couldn't get it over my shoulders, so I dropped it, and then he told me to try it again. So then I tried it again, and I did it, and I think I lifted 70 pounds. So they take that so that they can give you job options. So I guess if you cannot lift that, I think it drops down on the jobs that you can do. So I think I lifted 70, and after that he took my medical stuff and he gave me additional sheets to fill out. After I was done, I gave that stuff to him, and then he gave me like this little sheet of paper where he signed off, and then he told me to go give it to the operation and control desk, which is where you check in. There they made me read this little piece of paper, and then they asked me if I had already gotten lunch, and I told them no, because at this time it was around like 12. So they told me to eat and to hear out for my name, because they would be calling me to do the contracting. So I went to the area where you can eat, use your phone, watch TV, and that area was full because all the people that were leaving for BMT were all waiting there for their ride to the airport. And I was just eating pretty much what they give you is a sandwich, fruit, a cookie, chips, and then they ask you what you want to drink, if you want to drink pop or water. So I honestly couldn't even eat, because at this point I wasn't nervous, but I was tired, and I just kind of wanted to get things over with and go home. After lunch, I literally waited for like 2 hours before I got called, and then before that I was just talking to a girl there that she was also joining the Air Force, and she was just 6 months younger than I was, because I was one of the older ones there joining. So we were just talking the entire time, and then they finally called my name to go to contracting. So I went to contracting, and then the lady there was super nice. She was talking to me about her tattoo, because she had this elephant tattoo. It was really nice. Pretty much went over the contract saying that I'm doing 4 years of enlisted, and 4 years are, the other 4 years are considered an active reserve, meaning if there was any sort of war to happen, that we would be the first ones to get pulled back into the military before doing any sort of draft. After she went over the contract, she took me to this other little area where they scan all your fingers to get all your fingerprints, and then she told me to go back out there and wait for the ceremony call out. So I guess they were just trying to process as many as they could before they did the swearing ceremony. And this guy walked in and he's like, okay, let's go into the ceremony room. He showed us how to stand, and he showed us what to say, because we had to repeat this little thing. After that, he told us to wait there, that the person who was gonna do the swearing ceremony would be in. And then I think we waited for like 5 minutes, like in the same stance, when that person that was gonna do the ceremony with us walked in, and I think he was from the Navy. And then he walked in, and then whoever families came, they walked after. So then first he started by saying that he was that we should be very proud of ourselves, and that he was really proud of us for making this life commitment, that you know, it's going to change our lives forever, that we should be proud, and that we should take care of ourselves and make sure that we stay qualified. And then after that, he started with the little ceremony. Pretty much you're pledging to being in the military, you're pledging to following orders not only from commanders or chiefs, but you're also following orders from anybody above you and the president, that you swear to protect your country with your life. And yeah, that was pretty much the ceremony. I wish I would have gotten a picture, but my family wasn't there. But but I was told that when you do leave for BMT, you have to go through MEPs again. But you only do, I think, the medical part, and then you sign your final contract, and then you have another little ceremony. So I think when that time arrives, that's when I'll have my family there so they can take a picture, and that's gonna be probably like my final goodbye. But overall, guys, my experience with MEPS was not terrible at all. Everybody there was nice, and they were wanting to get us through. They seemed pretty happy to be there. I mean, for a Monday, they didn't seem grouchy at all. They were just trying to make conversation with people. They were trying to you know, get us all what we needed so that we could make our way through the day. So yeah, that was it. That was my experience. Everything went smooth, everything went well. My recruiter, before I left to MEPS, he had told me that if for any reason I got disqualified, not to get discouraged, but thankfully I went through MEPS and I didn't get disqualified. So yes, guys, I'm officially in. But now I am just waiting for me to pick a job or get a job, and then get my shipping date, because I swore into the DEP program, the delayed entry program, which means that I didn't sign my contract knowing my job. I just signed in to pick my job later. So I met with my recruiter yesterday and we went over jobs. I picked my job from 1 to 10, my top priority to my least priority, and he told me that he would try to get me the job that I wanted. Hopefully the job that I want is in the jobs that roll out next week for the month of August, because I am sort of excited to get a shipping date, because I kind of want to get things rolling, but we will see how long it takes me for me to actually get the job that I want. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. So hopefully I hear something soon, but I will let you guys know. So if you guys have any questions regarding this video, regarding MEPS, please let me know in the comment box below. I would love to read your comments and questions. But I will see you guys on my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!